just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barrero's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
Got your pen?
I do.
Rush Hour Drive, mics are live, top 5 at 5, Wolves in 5. I think there's too many 5s there.
A lot of 5s.
Yeah.
A lot of 5s.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of 5s like on our basketball team. Olivia Miles.
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards. Did you see the video that the Wolves and Lynx put out today, by the way?
No. Oh, it was of the practice courts.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was kind of a good. That was a very good idea.
Anthony Edwards on one side,
yes.
LaMelo Ball on the other side, and on the other side, in the other gym, Olivia Miles. It's a pretty nice trio. As
backer-upper defender, I always laugh at Costco shoppers who look thoroughly disappointed in their decision while squeezing their massive cart of goods between vehicles to load up their trunk. That's the other thing, though. If you back, you probably aren't going to back into a Costco spot, right? Because
I wouldn't think.
If you do and you got a car facing then your back, then you have no chance to use the back easily. You might get blocked in to even get your Costco stuff.
That's right.
Correct?
That's difficult. Yes.
Something to think about. Go ahead.
You know what we haven't done that I should have done, and I'm going to do it now for a while. Well, we'll see if I do it for a while, but I'm going to do it today. We have not in a really long time, Dan, given you a Minnesota Wild and Quinn Hughes update.
No, we have not.
Would you like the latest Minnesota Wild and Quinn Hughes update?
Well, I know Fallness would.
And I think maybe I'll make an open for this. And we'll play it
famous last
tomorrow.
words.
But I just thought of this like 15 minutes ago.
Why don't you, instead for now, why don't you play the World Cup Open again?
Oh, yeah, where is that one?
You probably lost it already.
No.
It's a great open.
Hang on. That was a good open.
It was a really good open. And eventually we might get to the, was it a Ronaldo story I said?
Yes.
I think it was a Ronaldo story. It's a major controversy.
I do have another open idea for another bit, but should I just play the World Cup one?
Yeah, why not?
So this is the World Cup Open, but it's actually for the Minnesota Wild and Quinn Hughes update.
All right.
"48 dreams, one trophy. Every match matters. Every goal echoes. Every moment lasts forever."
There it is. Oh,
This is World Cup talk on Bumper to Bumper with World Cup correspondent Brett Blakemore.
I think we used it 4 times.
Quinn Hughes, Minnesota Wild update.
Yes, Fallness will appreciate this.
So that's the latest on Quinn Hughes and his extension to hopefully re-sign with the Minnesota Wild.
That's too good.
Michigan week apparently didn't go very well. We'll give you another update maybe tomorrow.
Did we get confirmed that Russo went? That he shadowed him there?
I think he was still in Italy.
Oh, okay. That was a shot.
Switzerland or somewhere else.
Yeah, that's probably true.
With Anthony LaPanta.
That was dramatic. There's no question.
Yeah, so tomorrow we'll give you another update, maybe during the top 5 at 5, the Quinn Hughes Minnesota Wild update. Do you think it's sacrilegious to lump that in with the Christian Ponder free agency update and the men's World Cup soccer team when they didn't make the World Cup update?
A little bit, yes.
It's a little bit vicious?
Because we do have them now. Of course, the assumption is if we don't extend them, we'll have to trade them. So to that extent, it is big.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's August 4th. He was eligible to sign on July 1st, I think. We were all hanging out on 4th of July again, waiting to come back into work.
Well, let's put it this way. If he's not, there's no extension announced by the time Garen joins us at the State Fair, do I do the entire segment on that just to get him going? Just to see how much we can get him going.
Remember, we had to do that with Kirill 2 years ago, was it? When he was stuck in Russia?
Yeah, we were worried he'd been held hostage by Putin.
And I think even last year on the Kirill contract, we had to do it. Like, I mean, that's good because Garen, as you know, doesn't care. I mean, we feel fine. We like Quinn. He likes it here.
You know what?
You know what? It's a good place to play.
Yeah. I'm not worried.
No,
stop your worrying.
I don't worry about these things.
When the season begins, he'll play. He'll start for us and play 28, 32 minutes.
I don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You think about it way more than me.
Yeah, that's it.
What?
Exactly.
It's frustrating.
Kind of a light day at camp, apparently.
Did we complete a pass?
Well, here's what I'll say. I was going to have you, while I do this, will you pull up Kevin Seifert's Twitter?
All right.
Because I think this is what we should do as well. And this is what I'm going to make an open for tomorrow, tweets from camp.
That's a good idea.
We used to have Lavelle tweets from spring training, you remember? And they were always like completely meaningless because he wasn't doing anything. Lavelle didn't like that.
Yeah, he is such... Seifert's unbelievable.
Oh, is he trying to get people going?
Yeah.
Here's Alec.
Let me read you the tweet.
Okay.
And we can do the compare and contrast. An audible murmur from the crowd here in Eagan after J.J. McCarthy overthrows 3 consecutive passes to the corner in a goal line drill with no defense.
Then what?
He rebounded with more accurate throws in the next set of reps. What do you mean with no defense?
There was no defense. It's just offense running their routes against air.
How is that possible?
Don't know. Nobody knows.
Is that similar to what Alec came up with? Our 5:15 guest?
Well, Alec and Gessling, neither of them really commented on the Vikings quarterbacks today. That's kind of why I said it's an interesting day in that way. Maybe they've been told not to. Maybe they've been said, can you guys just tweet about something other than the QBs? Here's what Alec, his only tweet from practice today. Not much QB stuff from today's practice, but I thought tight end Gavin Bartholomew, CB Chuck Demings, and wide receiver Dante Fleming continued to look really good. Or really look good.
But what does that mean? Because people are going to be more interested based on the way our quarterbacks played at the end of yesterday's practice, even more than usual, right? So how do you just decide to drop it?
Yeah, and Gessling, he just has a quote from Kevin O'Connell today. He doesn't have any practice tweets at all, really.
Well, I'm very confused.
They're in shells.
So how do you decide one day more than another? I don't know. We'll find out from Alex soon.
Let me see. I'm going to go to... There's a lot of Vikings reporters. So let's go to Matthew Collar.
Okay.
Matthew has nothing from practice today, so I don't even know what's going on there.
Okay.
Maybe my algorithm's all messed up. Maybe I'm missing
it. They
did
practice today, didn't they?
In shells.
Yeah.
Dane Mizutani. Yeah, he just has stuff about Dominique Orange and Damond Claiborne. Will work back into practice today.
It's very
curious.
Curious to me. Yeah, that's the word for it.
Very curious. The Twins are back in action after a day off yesterday. They are continuing to be on the road. The Kansas City Royals, who, remember, they're going to be out for blood after the walk-off weekend.
Yeah.
The Friday night Royce Lewis walk-off, the Cody Clemens walk-off on Sunday. The Twins are 56 and 57. Joe Ryan, who now can pitch freely. He knows he's here, right? No, he struggled the last handful of starts. He knows he can pitch freely. He doesn't have to worry about moving. He can come back to Minnesota. Everything's going to be fine. Opposes a guy who we did trade, I think, a year ago, Randy Dobnak. The Royals 46 and 67. First pitch about 90 minutes from now.
Can't wait. Well, again, got another opportunity because we kind of got hot in part because we were playing some crappy teams, right?
Yes.
But they all count at this point. If the season ends today, is it a game out of the last wild card?
If the season ends today, we are a game back of the Guardians. We would we are fourth right now. The Yankees and Red Sox are the first 2 wild card teams. Red Sox are 4 games up of Cleveland, and then it's us.
I didn't ask Kernan. Is it 23 out of the last 26 for the Red Sox?
They're
ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, well, maybe next time.
They're unbelievable. I'm trying to think if there's any other pressing news I need to get to. I don't think so. I gave you the Quinn Hughes update. I told you that Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball were practicing
When are the Lynx
together.
back in action?
The Lynx, I think it is tomorrow. Hang on, because I had them pulled up. They don't play tonight. It's an off day for them. That's the other reason why it was everybody was aroused that Olivia Miles was in the gym, because it's an off day for them. They take on the Sparks on Thursday night.
Thursday, okay.
Prime Video, FYI. Prime Video at Target Center. So that means that game will not be on the Fan, in case you're wondering.
That's a cheap shot.
Well, it's not a cheap shot. I'm just telling people.
It's accurate, but it's cheap.
Because people get mad at us.
I know, they do.
We can only put the games on that are available.
Well, I mean, we have to clarify. Well, by that, what we mean is there's a radio feed. It's opportunity when the game is simulcast with a local broadcast, that's taking place. If there isn't one, if it's a national game, then there's no way to get the radio broadcast that would be local because the local broadcast goes away, right? They just don't do it.
Yeah, I'm taking a look
They
here.
don't have a radio method even when the game, like, the NBA, you're still going to be on the radio because you got a radio play-by-play person, right?
Right.
Regardless of whether it's a TNT game or not, you can still get it on the radio. But that means somebody has to be doing the play-by-play. If nobody locally is doing the play-by-play in the WNBA for the Lynx because the game's on Prime or on national TV, then we can't put it on because it doesn't exist.
Right.
That's your point.
It's kind of like the Stanley Cup Finals or Final.
Yeah.
Remember years and years ago, people would always be mad at us that we didn't do those. So that one is on Prime, and I was trying to see if it was on Victory Plus just to confirm. And yeah, it looks like it's just on Prime.
Okay.
So that means we can't do the game against Los Angeles Sparks. The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks. It is our national cash contest. The final keyword of the evening is credit. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword credit. Interesting.
All right, so we got Alec Lewis coming up. We'll get him going. Questions for him, Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line. They don't have to be about the quarterback situation. We'll eventually play some sound from our long interview with KOC yesterday from the Perch. We'll be back there on Friday. But let's catch up with Alec Lewis from The Athletic next.
This is Bumper to Bumper with...
The timing is actually perfect to be chatting with our next guest because I don't know if the individuals who cover this team, the Vikings, on a regular basis are playing their own little inside game and maybe enjoying the degree to which they might be frustrating the people who either listen to them or read them. I feel like I said, it's almost like we're talking about the Babe Ruth doesn't exist conspiracy. This feels like this might be another conspiracy. Alec Lewis is one of the media jackals who covers the Vikings every day. He was at practice. I assume are you still at TCO as we speak?
I'm not. I'm in traffic somewhere. I'm not from here, so I don't know the highway, but I was there. I was present for what was a very slow practice and on week 2 of camp. But I want to know what the conspiracy is. I'm very curious.
What kind of game are you guys playing? So here's my exasperation. Yesterday, you guys can't observe or tweet enough about the way the quarterbacks looked at the end of practice. So naturally, everybody's the people who are interested, they're more than ever. They're going, let's see, how today goes on the basis of how it finished yesterday. And you guys have all decided, except for one tweet, I think, from Seifert, to not even mention the quarterback. So how is that? Is that the sick little game you're playing? You get everybody all into it, and then you say, doesn't mean we have to pass along any information, even though presumably those quarterbacks still practice today.
Yeah, it was actually a collective decision by the Pro Football Writers of America to direct everybody to the interview you did with the head coach, and that's how they should spend their consumption time.
Yes.
On a serious note, the interview was phenomenal. But no, I would just say it was just a there weren't many highlights. I mean, there was a routes on air period where I believe Kevin Seifert did relay the information that J.J. McCarthy sailed a few passes in a row. And then there was at the very end a team drill where, I'd say the offense sputtered and the defense did what the defense has done for 3 years. And so, you battle in your mind if it's just early in training camp, if there's, the reps are shifting and all of that. But I expect a pretty fruitful practice tomorrow, a physical, longer practice. So I think the conspiracy will end tomorrow, if I had to guess.
All right. Well, it's like if you drop it, I get the point but I would argue that nondescript is worth describing because there's so much interest in it. And if yesterday it was awful, I think naturally will they rebound today? Will one of them rebound today? That's what I think people. Now, maybe I'm overthinking it, and people aren't as epoxied to it. And I'm also aware, what happens in any one day isn't going to tell the story. But I just felt like there was so much emphasis yesterday on, well, neither one of them could complete a pass at the end. It was kind of, and the head coach allegedly was exasperated, which I didn't really know when he came over to talk to me. I would have tried to get him going on it some more. But that's where I think it is. I don't think there's enough you could do. For example, the Seifert tweet you mentioned, an audible murmur from the crowd here in Eagan after J.J. overthrows 3 consecutive passes to the corner in a goal line drill with no defense. He rebounded with more accurate throws in the next set of reps, which almost sounds like he's throwing that in because he feels like he has to more than anything else. But, I mean, at this point, you're the one who told me everything matters the way this is set up. Well, I shouldn't say that. We think it's actually, the wheels have been greased for Kyler to be the guy. But nevertheless, to the extent that it's supposed to be a competition and it hasn't been declared yet, everything does matter. Everything is a piece that builds towards wherever we're going, isn't it?
Yeah, and I would say, if you asked me to describe how each guy looked today, it just wouldn't be much of a shift. I'd say J.J. McCarthy, but for a throw here or there, it was a lot of what we've seen from J.J. McCarthy throughout training camp, and then even going back to the spring, where he makes some of these full-velocity throws up the seam, but you don't see a lot of drop-back progression with quick, decisive decisions. And then I'd say for Kyler Murray, thus far, excusing Saturday, which was a really good practice, Kyler Murray, there just have been a lot of miscommunications down the field. Like there was a rep today, for example, where I believe it was T.J. Hawkinson. He took a little bit of a comeback route. Kyler threw it deep, thinking that he was going to take it deep. And so, I would say there hasn't been, I'd say from day to day, there wasn't a marginal enough change for me to think that what I saw has any overarching projection on what has seemed very clear going back to the spring, which is that Kyler Murray was the overwhelming favorite to be the Vikings starting quarterback week 1 against the Packers, and J.J. McCarthy needed to do a lot to prove growth. And so I just, just to speak about J.J. for a second, I have not seen a consistent day after day ability to layer the football and get through progressions in a timely manner. And until you see that, it's hard to think that the result would look any other or go any other way.
All right.
So you got me going.
Well, I'm trying. Let's get to the other component of this, because the impression I had, and we could barely see from our perch because of where they were practicing, at least yesterday at the end of practice. But the other component is the offensive line. So are we already in a situation that we seem to be kind of familiar with, which is the defense is just overwhelming the offensive line, and that's also contributing to whatever difficulties we were seeing or saw yesterday from the quarterback position. Did the line look any better? Are we worried about that already at this point? Because, again, we've got some continuity there at several spots. They have some hope at center. Now we think Darrisaw is healthier, but everybody, I think, will agree that whatever group we end up with or stick with, it has to play better than it did a year ago. So are we? Is the defense just is B-Flow just toying with these guys again?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Blake Brandel, and I would say there have been instances where it does feel like when Kyler is the quarterback, there's some interior pressure, and it just becomes difficult for him to kind of read it out the way Kevin O'Connell, with the offense that is as rhythm and timing based as it is, would want it to. I would say my impression, and this is just to the untrained eye, is there have not been a ton of Brian Flores exotic all blitz, engage 8 Madden type of calls throughout this training camp. I think more than anything, it's been Dallas Turner around the edge. It's been Ivan Pace maybe blitzing from the second level, but we have not seen a ton of the line up 8 guys on the line of scrimmage and drop certain guys and rush certain guys. It just hasn't been a lot of that. And I think, I wouldn't be surprised if that's part strategy to try to get an honest evaluation of the quarterback play. But I'm glad you talked about the O-line or asked about the O-line, because For me, in joint practices, that's probably beyond the quarterback play. I think that's just where my mind goes because they have had a shift there. Kevin talked about it with you yesterday. New offensive line coach, new ways of training this thing. Does that, does fruit bear from that? If it doesn't, I think it's going to raise a lot of questions.
I assume it's too early to answer that question, right? We're not deep enough into camp where you could even get to any real threads or tendencies that you'd be confident expressing.
No, I would say this. The most important storyline in camp that isn't the quarterback play is the way they are training the offensive line and the shifts they have made in the run game. Now, again, to the question, I don't know if we will see whether or not that produces results. Or I'm pretty certain we're not going to know whether that's going to produce results or not until the season begins. But I can just tell you, having talked to a ton of players, defenders, defensive linemen, linebackers, offensive linemen, there is a difference with the way the offensive linemen are coming off the ball in the run game. Now, again, I don't want to go too far because they've talked a lot about the run game improvement for years, and it just hasn't gotten to a place where that can be a relied on phase of the team. So, but that for me, Dan, is the most important thing in this camp round. It should be discussed.
There are some skeptics out there who feel there is a bit of a conspiracy here in which you guys have apparently sat down the beat cabal, so to speak, and decided that you're fixing this thing on behalf of the new guy and against the incumbent. Example, this is from 701 Guy. Translation, J.J. McCarthy had a great day. Kyler did not. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to hear it. So they think your guys are going to go out of your way to, on the days where Kyler doesn't look good, you just go, there's just nothing to see here. And the days when McCarthy stinks, you're going to do nothing but talk about JJ. So do you want to stake out a position on this thing? Do you have a dog in this fight?
Not at all. I don't have a dog in the fight. My dog is to cover what I see every day.
Yep.
And you try to be as objective with it as possible. And you and I, Dan, have talked about all of the variables at play. When you mentioned Brian Flores' defense, you mentioned, the reps where some of the quarterbacks, sometimes they're with the twos against the ones. Sometimes they're with the ones against the twos. So there's a lot of variables to all of it. But, I've said this many times, and this is as succinctly as I can probably put it. The Vikings are in a position right now with Kevin O'Connell entering his fifth year and with this team not having won a playoff game since 2019 and with Justin Jefferson in the prime of his career where short-term winning is the priority. And so you juxtapose that with J.J. McCarthy, with where he is, having only played 10 games, and how important long-term development is. That doesn't really jive with the short-term priority.
No,
so that's why,
yep.
That's why I've talked about it the way I have. That's why I've reported it the way I have, because Kyler Murray has done more over the course of his career that would lead you to believe that short-term success would be more probable with him as the quarterback from the outset.
Who had more balls batted down at the line of scrimmage is one of the questions. Maybe that's a stat you need to keep a closer eye on.
Yeah, you're right. It's funny enough. I've taken so many notes. I had my marketing director at my podcast do a T-chart of all the reps and all that. I mean, it's like I'm a spreadsheet accountant trying to track all this stuff. But there haven't been. I gotta be honest to the texters. There haven't been that many batted balls for either quarterback. Frankly,
that's good. Yeah, that's a little bit.
Now there have been many deflected passes on the second level. I mean, I could play at least probably 4 or 5 in my mind for both quarterbacks, where if they are probably a tick faster than the ball's completed, if they get the ball up and down, it's probably completed. So I would just say, I had this conversation with Pete Bursich after practice. Yesterday the offense was brutal and the defense was really good. And Pete's like, relax. It's always like this in camp. But I remember it being like this in camp early last year.
Yeah, I do.
And then the offense was poor throughout the season. So my antenna is, I think, rightfully up.
I agree 100%. It ordinarily I can understand the view of overreaction, but you got to be, I mean, if you've seen a trend, something has to happen to convince you something else is going on, I think, before you really think there's a chance that something else is actually going on. Do we have any kind, is it too early to suggest we might have a punter controversy?
They haven't done a ton of punting specifically with the team. I mean, I would tell you this. The undrafted signing who they added, Brett Thorson, was the Ray Guy Award winner at Georgia. And when the Vikings signed him, I did hear for some people in the league, like that was kind of a sneaky good signing. Now, this leads you down the road of, from a holding perspective, given the success Will Reichert has had, you want someone who can be reliable in that area. And I would just say I haven't seen enough reps to discern whether Brett Thorson's holding ability is good enough. But I do think the college production should push Johnny Hekker at the very least.
Gaardsy, let's do an on-air production meeting here. Alec Lewis joining us from The Athletic, fresh off attending another Vikings practice. Do you have the soundbite of my discussion with KOC yesterday in which I attempted to I won't say grill him, but ask him about his reaction to Chris Carter's suggestion via a podcast that, in fact, JJ was really more of a quasi move with, you know, the head coach kind of going along with it. Do you have that? Because then I want to get Alec's reaction
I have
to it,
it.
too.
Maybe when you feel like you've gotten the gist of it, we'll fade out of it.
Perfect.
It's 3.5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, because it's KOC.
It has to, and me. Yeah,
and
exactly.
Exactly right. It's a tough combo.
That's true.
So, we'll play it, and then whenever you want to fade out, fade out.
I'll let you know.
He says his sources indicate to him that it was Kwesi who was, this is his direct quote, driving the bus on drafting McCarthy, basically implying that you were kind of along for the ride. I find that hard to believe based on everything I've been told from the people who cover you every day. But can you address that and speak to that? Is Carter right?
Yeah, I can't really speak to his sources. I will just say this, Dan. It was a time and place in this organization where there was a lot of momentum from me included to draft a quarterback and to try to, you know, go get a quarterback that we felt like we can hopefully develop and build around under the premier development of what we thought we can do with time on task, and having a guy like Sam that I had a ton of confidence would go out there and have a great year, and we would figure it out after that. But I wanted the same thing happening now. Then I wanted a competitive daily situation, and JJ, that first training camp, you know, had gone out against the Raiders and played well, and we were going to go to those joint practices, and we were going to, you know, I don't think I would have been asked, are the reps 50-50 or 55-45 or 60-40? I don't think people would have been asking that at that moment. But the only difference between now and then is 10 football games in 3 years.
So here's the question on the basis of that question and answer. Did KOC, when you heard the interview originally, was your sense was that he declaratively answered my question? Yeah, that was just every bit as much me on JJ as Kwesi? Because when I was listening to it as it's happening, I sort of thought that's what he was doing. When I actually hear the words now and listen back to it, I'm not saying he's acting like he had nothing to do with it, but I didn't think it was quite as declarative, maybe. So is that worth making anything of, or maybe more generally, you want to address whatever, you know, Chris Carter has been saying about this particular issue at this late date?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it was a good question by you, and it was good to hear him answer that live on the air. Second, I would say no, it didn't feel like a declarative answer to me, just listening, in my opinion. And then third, I mean, I would say this, Dan, like Kevin O'Connell leading into that 2024 draft was very open publicly about how much he was driving the process of the evaluation that would lead to the quarterback who was selected in the 2024 draft. Now, he also did say to you last night, he said, it is a draft. So you obviously don't select the person, perhaps, who is the premier person on your list. And I have reported it. It's been said many times that Drake May, who obviously had a prior relationship with Josh McCown and who also knew Sam Darnold, was in the crosshairs of the Vikings organization and Kevin O'Connell. But to end up going through the process, to seeing Drake May selected at 3, to seeing Michael Penix taken at 8, and to draft and move up a spot to draft J.J. McCarthy, for me, it was a culmination of the process that Kevin O'Connell put together. And so while, yes, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah contractually had control of the 53-man roster, to think that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah would not have leaned primarily on the person who he stated publicly that he was excited to work with because of their quarterback expertise, I think just would not be viewing the circumstance correctly.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it because, and you may have, I don't know if this was your quote, or I certainly have seen it where through that whole process then, or maybe since, what KOC has previously said is, look, I rejected a number of quarterback ideas that were kind of thrown my way or our way under the guise of, look, I know we need a young quarterback, but we're not going to just take anybody. And the implication was this time we see enough talent in what might be available to us that we're diving in, instead of just dipping our toe, we're actually going to dive in. So no question, he may have been hinting again that McCarthy wasn't number 1 on their list. But my assumption all along was there's no chance that if he's not saying, I got a chance to do something with this guy, that I'm convinced that Kwesi would have picked him or would have made that move. Do you think?
No, I would say, from my understanding, Dan, with a lot of circumstances and roster additions in recent years with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah as the general manager, he deferred plenty of times to the coaching staff beyond quarterback is what I would say. So look, and Kevin, I believe, said this with you, but after the joint practices, or I would say at Cleveland joint practices in 2024, in the fall of 2024, when they announced that J.J. McCarthy had torn his meniscus, Kevin O'Connell at the time said, Vikings fans can be very positive and happy that we found our quarterback of the future. Yeah. Now, people pin that comment on him as if things can't change between that point and last season or now or what have you. But I do think that is a data point that speaks to the conviction that he had at that time from what he saw. And so to, I would say, remove him from the apparatus of how the quarterback process that led to this point got here. I just think that's way missing the important context within all of it.
I had a bunch of questions I didn't get to with KOC yesterday, as is often the case, because he does. I didn't think he was that bad on the word salad part, but he tried to give expansive answers. One of the questions I didn't get to that I wish I would have if I'd had more time, and as it was, I think we were talking to him almost 30 minutes, was if he had to narrow it to one thing, in the case of McCarthy, this is the one thing at the top of the list at which you need to improve to give yourself a chance, maybe not just to compete for the job this year, but to be a guy at some point. What would that be? If you're answering that question, what do you think is at the top of your list, or what do you think is the top of what how he might have answered that question if he was being honest?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the answer, and this is probably like a broader term, but it would just be consistency. Mm-hmm. And it's consistency with your fundamentals and mechanics. It's your consistency with how you show up to the building every day. It's your consistency with an attentiveness to layering the football. It's a consistency, really with operating the offense. Like I think that would probably sum up the gap between what I think so many Vikings fans, understandably, what they've wanted J.J. McCarthy to be and what he's been. Like, I think it's that word. And it does include, and I've reported this before, just the how you show up every day, I don't want to say commitment, but just the understanding of what is required for a professional quarterback at this level when you have 90 alphas looking at you and eyeing you every single day. Like, that has been an element of it that, whether they talk publicly about that or not, has certainly been a part of it.
You know, it's interesting how things stick with people. We had Chuck Foreman on, the former Vikings running back, early from training camp yesterday. And I'm asking him about Kyler, and I'm asking him about McCarthy. And he volunteers, as a former player, I just found this fascinating, a clear annoyance with what seemed to annoy everybody when that little move, that little bootleg where McCarthy goes into the end zone and does a dance on his way in. And I just found it fascinating that if an ex-player is bringing that up out of nowhere, how and when we talk about consistency, it's almost like part of it is how you act at the position, that there was this feeling that maybe they didn't understand when they drafted him, that there was this sort of weird immaturity that I sense does kind of put people off a little bit, maybe even puts off players. I don't know if they're going to admit to it, but it was interesting to hear Chuck, a former player, bring that up and say he didn't like it.
Yeah, it's interesting on a lot of levels. One of them, I try sometimes when I cover baseball, I always was so mindful of the unwritten rules part of it, and how times change and culture changes. But this type of thing came up in a conversation I had with one of Kyler Murray's former teammates and talking to people about Kyler, and it was when you are an NFL quarterback, there are just so many things that you have to do, say, these unwritten aspects that sometimes just don't, like teammate has a baby and you're at the hospital, or something happens and you send a message or a letter. These minor little acts that the best quarterbacks, I think, have mastered, and some just kind of have a feel for them, or some have been taught them, and some have to learn them. And this former player said to me, if you're a cornerback or if you're a receiver, this stuff never gets talked about. It just isn't. It doesn't matter. It's not important. But when you're a quarterback in the NFL, because of the spotlight that is on you, both from the media, from the public, from fans, and from the people in the locker room who are often looking at you even when it doesn't feel like it, those little things do matter. And so, I've learned a lot in having these conversations, because I do think it's an element of it that is relevant. Yeah, you said, it is.
I'll leave you with this. This is a new one. I'd not heard this one before. Now, keep in mind, this is from a texter, 612 guy, who claims he's got great sources. We don't know. He might. Maybe he's got the source. But I'll just read this. KOC wanted Knicks. Quasi wanted and took JJ. You wouldn't believe me if I told you how I know that, so I won't even bother. Now, I hadn't heard that one before. We certainly, I think, knew that McCarthy was not at the top of KOC's list, but I always felt all along, it's no, but McCarthy's good enough for me I'll invest and we'll do it. I hadn't heard the Knicks one before. Have you ever heard that theory advanced?
No. Of all the theories, I have not heard that one. And again, I would just reiterate this. Over the course of Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's time as the Vikings general manager, he deferred to Kevin O'Connell on a lot, and I would say especially the quarterback position. Mm-hmm. And so, and I've had a lot of conversations around the subject, and I just, Kevin O'Connell, again, you can find stories after the drafting of J.J. McCarthy of him walking him through the process that he constructed to evaluate those quarterbacks. So, no, that is not one I've heard. I've heard many. I've heard a lot of iterations from a lot of different people with a lot of different perspectives and incentives, but not that one.
I could talk quarterbacks. I never get tired of it. I know some people do. I never do. It's a fascinating subject and always a weird one for the Vikings. And that's why already we got people speculating on, you know what? Let's not get too worried, even if it doesn't go great, because we will then next year pivot to a long-term deal with Baker Mayfield. That's the world in which the Vikings live, right? It's always about the next thing. And by the way, the next thing still would also be short-term. That's why we're in this mess, are we not? Because McCarthy so far hasn't emerged. And so we're back to the game of what can we get to just patch it up for another couple of years, right?
Yeah, I've told my dad that, the seasons exist, fall, spring, summer. I'm in four, this job there's four different sections of covering the Vikings beat. From August to the end of the season, it's an up and down journey with the quarterback. And then from February to April, there's curiosity of who the next quarterback's going to be. Then from April to August, it's up and down and building the optimism of the quarterback who exists. And I think that's maybe not 4 seasons, that's 3. I can't really count. That's why I went to journalism school, but that is the continuum that exists.
Yeah,
and the more that cycle continues, the less hair I'll have, and the more probably interesting discussions we'll have.
Thank you for the time, as always. We'll be in touch, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
And, of course, Alec Lewis, who covers the Vikings for the Star Tribune. No, that would be the Athletic. I'm having trouble getting this on hold. There we go. The cursor. Got it. Finally. No, not the Star Tribune. The Athletic, one of several members of the Athletic empire, and we always appreciate his contributions. I'm sure we'll get Ben Gessling on Friday. And who knows who else, because it is, of course, heavy Viking season. I went late, didn't I? So let's go ahead and get a pause, and then we'll get caught up. And we got a little bit more sound from our conversation with KOC yesterday. If you missed it, that might be some highlights and some lowlights. So come back for that, and maybe a couple of texts.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barrero on the Fan.
The Bo Nix message was from Jay Payton. Guess it could have been one of Gaardsy's favorite guys, as we've established over the years. 64686, that's the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. Some interesting text coming in related to nothing we've talked about today, which I'll save for a little bit later. In this short segment, because I got a little bit behind, it was going so good with Alec Lewis.
Per usual.
Yes, correct. Do you have a shorter nugget? Or are they all pretty long?
They're all,
3 to 4 minutes?
3:23, 4:22.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll
could save one.
We'll try to hold off on that for the immediate future. Let's see. Breaking news, Sounder, my pillow guy stepping down to focus on the governor's race. Cannot wait to hear Kessler's thoughts. Yeah, I thought I saw a headline on that. The interesting thing about my pillow guy is, didn't I see a headline? Let me see if I can find it via StarTribune.com that got my attention. Let's go to news and politics. No, not that one. This one. Here's your headline. Minnesota GOP intensifies campaign against Mike Lindell's run for governor. Republican Party is again questioning whether Mike Lindell has lived in Minnesota long enough to be governor. The latest development in a remarkable campaign to stop a candidate endorsed by the president. The state GOP has asked Minnesota officials to clarify residency standards before voters go to the polls for the Aug 11 primary. More evidence that the chairman fears the likely DFL nominee, Amy Klobuchar, would rout Lindell in a general election. Voters in Minnesota are entitled to clear guidance on the governing residency standard before they cast a ballot, not after. It's just fascinating that this isn't in this case, the pushback is not coming from Dems, who I think probably would say we would welcome the chance for Amy Klobuchar to run against my pillow guy.
I would agree with that.
In this case, it's coming from within, and maybe I'm answering that's the reason the Republican Party is doing it. But nevertheless, the fact that all this steam is in question is coming from the Republicans is quite a statement, I guess you could say, on the Republican Party. And maybe there's some Republicans that say, well, it actually encourages me if there's some effort to try to find a way to not have to mess with the Mike Lindell factor. Not the Mike Trudell factor.
No.
Which is very different.
He's on an Alaskan cruise right now, okay?
Is he?
With his family. Leave him alone.
Oh, this would be even better if he starts getting some tweets. I hope he gets some tweets today about why can't you even establish residency in the state you want to run? How embarrassing is that?
It would be great.
You know, and it might happen. How many national championships has Kyler Murray won? How about Bo Nix or Drake May? I do think being a winner does mean something.
Yeah. How many did Peyton Manning win? How many did Tom Brady win?
Yeah.
I mean, they were pretty good quarterbacks.
I will say to Bo Nix guy, there's always room for, I think, a second look at what has been sort of taken for granted as factual when it comes to the Vikings quarterback decision. I've not found anything. And so there might be, I think, some reasonable discussion about who wanted who. I've not, from the beginning, heard anything that suggested Bo Nix was their guy. Now, you could say, based on his own experience, because he was a very experienced quarterback, he should have been. They should have maybe not lost themselves in J.J. McCarthy's eyes so much. But the Bo Nix conspiracy theory at this late date, I think, is I would need a little bit more evidence of that. In fact, I would say a lot more evidence of that. What's interesting at the time was somebody had reported that the guy that if we couldn't get May, the guy we really wanted was the lefty, the ex-IU guy.
Oh, Michael Penix.
Michael Penix.
Yep.
And again,
who wasn't available when we picked.
Exactly. Yeah. Atlanta moved up. That was when Atlanta, after making the Cousins move, turned around and did this too. So, and I'll be honest, Penix so far has been a big disappointment to me. I liked him a lot.
Me too.
Coming out, but in terms of what seemed to be a pure passer, but it hasn't materialized. Now he's had injury issues. That's been part of it, but he hasn't. I don't think even when he's played, he's looked as sharp.
Yeah,
as I expected.
And they've had coaching issues, right? They have a new coach. Stefanski's there now, isn't he?
That's it. That's his deal now. That's right.
Not a great situation for him.
No. I was just about to say top 5 at 5. No, that was at 4:55. We led into that tease. Now we just got a half hour to go. So we got the 6 o'clock half hour to get to, and we will have a little time to play back a couple of snippets from our conversation with the KOC yesterday in case you missed, that activity on the exclusive KFAN radio perch. A couple of other controversial texts will be also a part of our discussion before we wrap things up at 6:30.
You're listening to Barrero on The Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by
5.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
Kevin Kernan joined to talk baseball early, a decent amount of Twins conversation, as well as his thoughts on the Babe Ruth never existed conspiracy theory. In addition, Alec Lewis with some good Vikings football conversation and quarterback talk. Yeah, there's always a different way to go and a different angle. So 2 outstanding guests today. Tomorrow is Kessler Day, I'm assuming.
Believe so.
And right now, that's all we got on the docket, I think, for the moment.
For now.
That might change. Looks like Andy Luger is going to come in studio on Thursday. Dr. Dan's inbox will be opened, and we'll try to figure out by game time tomorrow what T-shirt possibility we might be heading towards, because apparently we're up against the clock to that extent.
Bears right around the corner.
You're right. WNBA writes 507 guys saying keep politics out of their game unless it's a far left opinion, then it's perfect. Well, we kind of did talk about this yesterday because that's sort of the futility of the current political condition across the board, isn't it? Because how many times did we hear from the Sharks on the right basically shut up and dribble? Endlessly. Shut up. I don't even know about your opinion. And it wasn't that you were offended by their opinion, but you were offended by the opinion that they were offering. So Yeah, is the shoe on the other foot right now? Yeah, but don't pretend, please, that this has not been an ongoing issue. Quite frankly, when it comes to athletes and what they say, more on the right, shall I say, than on the left at this most recent time. Regardless of whether they're talking about the Sophie story, what took place here with the protests, and where the thing goes from there. It's all. I mean, it's definitely an ox goring kind of a situation. We've done that shirt, haven't we? It all depends on whose ox is being gored. I'm not sure, although it might be too dated at this point because we don't really use it
right
as much any longer.
You're right.
Some of the images you sent me were a bit disturbing.
How about
via
the Lavelle
email.
underwear?
The Lavelle underwear is remarkable.
With the quesadilla.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good. No question about that. Well, we did spend a pretty good amount of time revisiting the backing into parking places controversy. And I'm still getting texts on that, too. So that may be a good subject for us to revisit at the fair. Sometimes we like to go a little lighter at the Great Minnesota Get-Together because the recent policy, I think at the fair, it's official, the last working active politician that we had on from the fair was Al Franken, was it not?
That's the last one I remember.
And that's a long time ago now.
We're talking 15 years.
Yes, that's how long it's been.
Yes.
And from that point forward, I just decided let's not do any... we can talk politics, but I'm not going to have any active... politicians who are going for office, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with doing it. Believe me, I'm just not sure.
The only other one I really remember that we had, we had Amy Klobuchar on, but it was because John McCain passed away during the fair.
That's a good point.
And so you had her on a sermon
on a specific issue.
Yes. But I remember we had R.T. Ryback on because we had. You more specifically, I didn't know much about it. I absolved myself from responsibility. Remember we had that issue with the firefighters?
Oh,
there was something with the Minneapolis firefighters.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And we talked about it, and his people reached out and said the mayor would appreciate an opportunity to explain himself a little bit.
I remember that. Okay.
And so he came out, which I appreciated, and there was a bunch of firefighters right there, and they talked it out, and you had him on the show. So